Hello there, my pretties. The name is Fronka, and I am a vampire queen, baby. Well, more vampire and not so much queen. Yet. I am the descendant of an ancient noble vampiric bloodline, and I am out to make a name for myself. The world is my oyster, and I eat oysters, baby. But to go about making a name for myself, I need soldiers. So I have arrived at the city of Waldenhof. My father left me his inheritance, all that he had left in the world after our great noble house had fallen from grace. 1,000 gold is nothing to turn your nose at, but it's hardly all that much. Not that it matters, we don't plan on hiring any soldiers. No, my friends, I'm afraid you're going to need to grab your shovels as we plan on digging up our soldiers and raising them from the grips of death to fight for us. Yes, indeed, the god Moor shall not be pleased tonight, as I have stolen many a soul from him. With a warband of 33 men, including myself, of course, meaning I have 32 undead strong under my belt, we're off to a good start. The quickest way to notoriety around these vampiric lands is by killing humans, any of the living that we can, and of course outlaws and deserters and cultists will do just fine. And they'll also make for perfect meat in my army. Not only that, but this'll also be some great experience for my undead troopers. Face to face with hordes of the undead. I wonder how many of them have soiled themselves already.
Engage! Yeah!
Yes, this was our very first battle, and from it we would learn much from these outlaws, like how they should never stand in place as my army marches upon them, as it ends up in them all being slaughtered, of course. That's okay, no shame. I never pegged any of them to be a master of tactics anyhow. Truly, they will serve this world much better by serving under my thumb in my horde of the undead to help me conquer the realm of the living. And after dusting off some of the dust and blood and dirt, of course, from their gear, we would be able to equip it to ourselves. Not exactly fitting with my culture, but it will protect me much better than the rags I've been wearing. I've never been all that concerned with fashion anyhow. I like to focus and prioritize other things, like hunting down more living humans and slaughtering them by the dozen. Practice makes perfect, though, as they say, and I plan on having a lot of practice. There, dear, nothing to be afraid of. Mama's just come for your soul. After a few of these battles, our skellies finally had enough experience for a couple of upgrades. So, of course, we ended up ranking them up, giving them new weapons and armor that we found in our travels. And we would continue replenishing our ranks with hordes and hordes of the undead from local cemeteries in our travels as well. Truly, though, our tactic of survival and making ourselves well known as a formidable warrior with quite the warband under her belt was similar to vampiric tactics in general. Just as vampires like to eat human flesh and suck their blood, we would often hunt down human foes to replenish our ranks, and we would often actually hunt down beastmen foes for their food and equipment to sell. It's kind of like a leech type of situation. But beastmen also had something else that was quite useful in terms of their equipment. Ranged weaponry, some bows that they've made out in the forest. We could really learn a thing or two from you folk. Or we could just take it for ourselves. As I'm sure you could guess, I would much rather prefer option 2, so my beautiful undead babies and I would begin a mass slaughter of beastmen anywhere we found them in an attempt not only to replenish everything and to make money, but to steal their sweet succulent bows. Speaking of that, there was just one teeny tiny problem. Even with the simple short bows that the beastmen carried, I don't have near enough experience with a bow to even begin to attempt to put an arrow and knock the arrow, and it's a very complicated process. Since we can't wrap our minds around the simple concept of trying to use a bow for whatever reason, we've decided to travel to the nearby city of Lichtenberg, I believe is how it's pronounced, where we would actually begin discussing with a few merchants and traders who actually have a crossbow. You would think that the concept of using a crossbow in instead would be probably even more complicated. Okay. Well, nevertheless, we still decided to give our new crossbow a good old college try. Am I right? But it, as you can see, is extremely inaccurate, unfortunately, with a huge margin for error when we're aiming and shooting. Even so, it was still a hell of a lot of fun hunting down our prey with this bad boy and got us some much needed experience with some type of ranged weapon. Now then, after many a battle, we had quite a fortune in our possession. Finally, we could begin hiring our fellow vampires to fight in our army. We don't actually have to keep raising undead. We're still going to because they're cheap and easy, but I digress. They could be cannon fodder, while our vampiric companions and kin here can be upgraded into proper blood knights. Even so, you can't expect us to give them that type of armor without any battle experience. Thankfully, killing a few groups of cultists should do the trick. Surely beheading some of these chaos-worshipping freaks should put them in the mood to continue a conquest against the living. I know it sure does for me. Speaking of the cultists, though, we would end up taking them prisoner whenever we could, and we would actually enslave them to fight for us. We don't mind if they are stupid and worship chaos, as long as they renounce that and worship me as their vampire mommy. Oh yeah, who's a good boy? Eventually, I and my warband would arrive at Helfin, I believe is how it's pronounced, a place where we can go about binding wraiths to our will to fight in our army. That's right, baby, we're breaking out all the supernatural shit, whatever it takes to win. Though, as we go about upgrading some of our vampiric nobles in our ranks, I don't think we'll have much of an issue at all with winning. We now have some blood knights and others among our ranks, wielding some pretty heavy weaponry, armor, and even horse armor as well. Though we have to expend quite a bit of gold and also trap souls to give our nobility these types of upgrades in their weaponry and armor, and even their battle prowess, it is well worth it, as you can see. Not only do they look super badass, but they can take on a small platoon of deserters and outlaws and yada yada yada, basically just human soldiers all by themselves very easily. All this, by the way, only within the first 25 days. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned a moment ago, but this is 100 days as a vampire. Don't worry, the other days should go pretty quickly, I would say. And as we continued our journey through the thick, dense, foggy forest, we would eventually arrive at the Barren Hills. Yet another place where we could bind even more wraiths to our will, yada yada. You've already seen this part. I'm guessing you don't give a shit. Me either. However, after doing so, it is important to note that we now have an army of up to 103 strong, made up mostly of undead and also some vampiric nobility, as well as a handful of wraiths, but no humans. I want to make that clear. Okay, except for the chaos worshippers who are worshipping me, but that's different. Having an army of this size made taking on Ungor Beastman warbands, as well as any other warband realistically, of outlaws and deserters and blah 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 blah, very, very easy. And so we would continue doing so, raising all of their dead from the battles to fight for us, replenishing our ranks. Oh, we also took all their stuff too, which was pretty cool. We didn't really use any of it, so we were just going to sell it. I still never really learned how to shoot a bow, unfortunately. That, accompanied with the fact that we would ransom off any of those who did survive to our vampiric cities, and we were making quite a pretty penny. But I wasn't just worried about these earthly mortal possessions. No, I was also attempting to hone my skills in the field of magic as well. And once I wasn't really able to perform that anymore because I was a little bit too tired, I would then revert to my crossbow and sword. Now don't get me wrong, I absolutely hate the realm of the living and I hate humans, but they do have some pretty good steel armor, so I've decided to use some myself. I know, but sometimes the best way to fight fire is by using more fire. We were also able to upgrade our spirit host wraiths into some proper mounted units, which Wasn't really all that important, but I wanted to mention it because I always think that they look so dope as hell. You remember how earlier I said that the next 25 days and the rest of this time is going to go pretty quickly? Well, I wasn't lying to you, because up until day 50 we basically spent all of our time and money, and also some souls within our possession, going about hiring more vampiric nobility to serve in our army so we can continue upgrading them into some proper, sturdy, and dangerous knights. Hey, it's day 50, told you so, we're halfway there. As we were traveling away from the castle, we would eventually stumble upon some vampiric nobility, and I'm talking like a lord nobility, not just some ragtag fellas that's been fighting in our army. This is Manfred von Karstein. Maybe you've heard of him. Yeah, he's pretty famous around these parts, and we wanted nothing more than to serve under him. But, unfortunately, it would appear he's never even heard of us. Oh, okay. Whatever, we've never even heard of Manfred anyways. I was lying, probably. Besides, our soldiers need experience, and that way we can actually kill more and more humans, and eventually everyone will have heard of our name. Oh? What's this? What have we here? The Vulcan Harek of the Blood Dragons, nonetheless, offering moi a mercenary contract. Don't mind if I do. To hell with Manfred, and to hell with my ancestry in the place that all of my ancestors grew up in and came from. I am a blood dragon now. Well, I'm in service to them as a mercenary at least, but that's kind of like being an adopted child. But as a blood dragon, we are currently at war with several other factions and nations, so the journey there might be extremely dangerous. We'll use caution when needed, of course. Funny enough, though, on our way there, we would end up encountering a small warband of Chaos Raiders and cultists, led by a gentleman atop a flaming horse. Highly unusual. Apparently, the gentleman is the Chaos Lord known as Mortkin, and he was less than friendly, to say the least. Okay, Mortkin, go time then.
On them!
You see, Mortkin here could have bowed down and started worshipping me, his vampiric mommy, the rightful goddess, but instead, he continues to choose chaos, so he and his raiders will need to no longer be alive, I'm afraid. I wish I could say that his chaos raiders put up a good fight, but I would be lying, as these great big blundering beef nuggets were nothing compared to my blood knights who easily ended up slaughtering them. Now then, where is Mortkin? Over there is his dead pony. Aha, there you are. Listen, Mortkin, sweetie, I'm going to actually take you prisoner since you were so unlucky enough to not die out there on the battlefield. Aww. And I am going to be giving you as a gift to my new employer, the Blood Dragons. I just think that Harkin will be extremely ecstatic to taste your flesh. And I can say without a doubt, I was extremely ecstatic to take all of this chaotic raider loot. Although there wasn't really any armor or anything for me, I could sell quite a few things. And even though there was a lack of armor for myself, there was not a lack of weapons, as I would get a one-handed falcon, I believe is how you pronounce it. Who really gives a shit about pronunciations at this point? It's a nice sword for me. With yet another victory under our belts, we began heading into Blood Dragon territory, finally arriving at the Blood Keep itself some few days later. Even from the outside, the majesty of this devastating, dark, and devious castle could be felt for miles around. I love it. Maybe the place was a little bit haunted. That doesn't bother me, though, as I have the undead in my army. Oh, I see that they've put out beverages and meals in preparation for my arrival. I normally prefer mine cooked, but this is okay too. Ah, and there was the Lord's throne. The leader of the Blood Dragon plops his large, pale tuchus right there. Maybe someday That could be me. Well, I suppose a girl can dream at least. Anyway, it seems like the Lord isn't here, so I'm just gonna drop off the Chaos fella all by my lonesome, and the guard said that they would let him know that I stopped in. Awful kind of them. But now that we've been offered a mercenary contract, we actually have an opportunity to prove ourselves and to move up through the ranks of the blood dragons themselves. And to go about doing so, we need to raise an undead army, the likes of which has never been seen. The only problem is these graveyards seem to be guarded. How unusual. Looks like we're already going to be making some new friends here in these lands. I'm guessing these night watchmen probably thought I was some type of grave robber or novice necromancer. Sorry, boys, but you are dealing with the vampiric mama, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to kill all of you now. Excuse me, you there? Yes, you. Wait, come back. Fine, that's a shame. I really needed to talk to him about something important. Killing him. After raiding a graveyard, a crypt, and a keep, we had quite a large army, the largest that we've had thus far, at least, with us being a little over 200 strong. Enough for us to chase down some of these imperial caravans and start ripping them apart. Now, since these caravans mostly contain civilians, I was actually willing to let them go, as I would just kill the soldiers for now, and then later on, after toppling their governments, the civilians could be enslaved. But they were so foolish that they were willing to die for gold and another man's goods. Tisk, tisk.
Forward! Cut them down!
Sate your hunger.
So, yeah, anyway, as you could have guessed, we decided to try to kill every single one of them that we could. I was lobbing off heads here and there, arms and legs, and just really limbs in general, I guess. Perhaps the best part is after we killed all the soldiers, we had many a mule to take into our own party, as well as all their goods, which we could sell and raise our vast fortune to be even more vast. We would, of course, raise their dead and replenish our ranks and grow our ranks and yada yada yada. Cutting off their supply lines also really seemed to please the blood dragons quite a bit. Well, that was cool. All this, by the way, and it is just now day 75, 3/4 of the way there. Time flies when you're having fun. At one point, we detected one of our vampiric employer lords in a battle and decided to give them a little helping hand. And hellfire was this fun. Not only fun, but of course we're fighting alongside vampiric lords, which is no doubt going to get us some of that sweet medieval clout. And this is also most likely the largest battle, I think that we've ever been in. At this point, that is, of course. But don't worry, mama, they keep on getting larger and larger. And this was a proper battle as well. I didn't leave this field until every single crevice and corner of my body was filled with enemy blood. And yes, you heard that correctly. By this point, our army was just over 310 strong, which should be enough to take one of these castles or cities from the elves, perhaps. These knife-eared fellers and fellerettes hiding out in the forest were about to meet the mighty blade of Franca the Vampire. Surely to God, this'll get us some attention around these parts, and everyone will hear my mighty name, Franca. Franca. Alright, let's kill him.
It's not a war!
You see, there's a few things you need to know about elven cities. They're extremely beautiful, but extremely hard to defend because they're right here in the forest with just a few bridges leading straight into them. When their armies are not near as large as, say, my army in this case, they struggle to keep them and to hold them, just as you're seeing now as I'm firing arrows in over their heads and hitting their comrades right between the eyes. Yes, indeed, just as easily as we walked in, we were slaughtering these poor knife-eared bastards. And I was even raising a few reinforcements to help us out in the process, as you can see. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. A few more victories like this, and I think the blood dragons will be begging us to join them as a proper vassal. Perhaps they'll even give me a cool nickname like Body Piler, the Elf Slaughterer, the enemy vanquisher, you know, just whatever they feel like calling me, I suppose. Either way, the town and village or city, castle, whatever it's called, of Tal Indavarian is now under control of the blood dragons. You can thank me later. Ah, and look at this. I've even found myself a pretty little war dress to wear. I'm really indulging in the elven culture. Wallach Harkin has created an army. Now's my chance for some clout, baby. I rode up and quickly joined the army, speaking to Wallach Harkin himself. And get this, he knows my name. I told you taking that elven shithole would end up getting us some clout, didn't I? It's just a matter of time now before I become a vassal. But first, I think we should try to serve alongside him to kind of get in his good graces a little bit more, am I right? And as thus we would continue marching with Wallach's mighty army of almost 4,000 strong. With a few days' time, we would end up arriving at the elven city known as Crag Halls of Findol, and as such we would immediately begin laying siege. The Harkin would actually allow me to lead one of the attacks. Can you believe it? Obviously, we couldn't say no, as this was the opportunity that we've been waiting for this entire time. We shall not let him down today, nor ever. As I began to lead my forces into the heat of battle, the elven archers would begin pelting us with several an arrow. It was like a swarm of bees coming right for us. Their aim was impeccable. Thankfully, though, as my brave men and women, who are mostly undead, began charging them from the front, I would be able to sneak up from behind, hitting them in the back of the skull with a few arrows. Ah, to see my forces fighting alongside the other lords, I really felt at home now. And as I got brain matter and tendons and other bodily fluids and physical pieces all over me, this was a beautiful battle, perhaps the largest and most beautiful, actually, that we will see ever. I felt like a real warrior, a real woman, and I finally felt alive, even though I'm not. And not these elves, not their soldiers, nothing could stop me. Well, it would seem that I've been shot in the face with an arrow. But nevertheless, even without me, my forces, along with the others, would easily end up defeating the elves. And we had taken yet another of their cities. And though, yes, I fell in battle, I'm sure that everyone will understand my predicament, and I'll still get to become a vassal, right? Well, unfortunately, I couldn't really walk. I still had a good bit of my men, but I didn't want them to pull me and drag me up to the Harkin to ask him about it, and I was going to try to give myself a little bit more time to heal. As I was healing, I allowed my forces to continue going on with the army, and they mostly just protected the city and killed a lot of beastmen warbands. That's actually about all they did. I would manage to limp around a little bit though, enough to go about equipping some new armor and even a proper vampiric shield, which was pretty cool. We were also hiring some of these elves into our ranks to help us out a bit. But before I could ask Harkin about becoming a vassal properly for the Blood Dragons, the army was disbanded and he had already left. And, even worse, it's already day 100. I guess it's over. But it really doesn't have to be, because if you would like to see more of Franke's story, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Be sure to subscribe and also be sure to like the video. I am going to level with you guys towards the end of this video here. After taking the large city there at the end, this save kept crashing. I'm sure that I might be able to figure out a way around that or just continue dealing with that, but as of right now, that is a little bit of an issue. So if you do want to see me continue, just know I will probably be battling that, and episodes won't be out like extremely fast, unfortunately. But yeah, be sure to let me know what you think about the video in the comment section down below, and do we continue Franke's story past 100 days? I do truly hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I love you guys, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.